Yes. Hello.
Please sit down.
Thank you, sir.
So we were unsure whether it's a male candidate or a female candidate. Dipti Ranjan.
Yes, sir. That's been a problem.
Okay. So you are from Khurda, born in Khurda.
Yeah, Bhubaneswar, sir. Yes.
Born in Khurda. What is the ODP of Khurda?
So there is a particular food product. I don't.
Okay.
know.
And what are the tribal groups still in Khurda? Any idea about the tribal groups?
So there is a very marginal presence of tribals in Khurda. So the tribal hinterlands are largely to the west of Odisha, and the major tribal groups are Gonds and
Bhils? What about Bhils?
There are some Bhils in the Andhra-Odisha border region.
Okay. Coming to your subject of economics,
Yes,
if we make you the finance minister tomorrow and ask you to present the July 2024 final budget, what would be your take on the final budget? As if you are the budget finance minister for the country, you are presenting your final budget. So what aspects would you take into account?
So it will be largely in the spirit of the last 2 or 3 years, because investment has been a major laggard in our economy for a long period now. And we need to reach around 35% to be able to grow at 7%. So on that front, the government has been doing the right thing. Secondly, I would like to focus more.
So first is?
A push for CapEx, as the government has been doing. Yes, sir.
CapEx.
And secondly, I would like to ramp up the budgetary outlay on education and health as well, because the demographic dividend that we keep talking about would not necessarily accrue if we do not invest in education and health now.
So education, you mean skilling or primary education or higher education?
We need to revamp primary education given the current state as captured in ASER and other surveys. And at the same time, we also need to reskill and upskill our labor force after graduation so that they're employable in the private sector. And thirdly, there will be a need to...
What percentage would you increase your budget on health?
To an average of 2 to 2.5%, as is the norm.
Close to 2 right now.
Both center and state, they add up to 2. I'd like to ramp up the central figure to around 2.
Central figure to 2?
Yes, sir.
So ultimately it becomes 3%?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the two aspects you've talked about, CapEx and health and education. Next.
So thirdly, there is a need to ramp up the military industrial complex as well, because we need to take care of our defense needs and indigenize the defense needs. And at the same time, this will also contribute to economic growth. So this will be largely in the spirit of what has been...
Have you heard the FM talk about 4 pillars for the interim budget?
Yes,
so
sir.
are those 4 pillars going into your final budget or not?
Yes, sir, they will.
So why don't you come up with your budget of 2024 July? And take the 4 pillars into account.
So the 4 pillars being farmers, women, youth, and the poor. And so the budget will also take care of inclusive growth in the same sense that the economic survey had once called the barbell approach, so that we promote economic growth on the one hand and also take care of the marginalized sections so that they're not left behind the curve.
So what do you think about developmental studies? Should we take more courses on developmental studies, or should we continue with economics, philosophy? It's more multidisciplinary.
Yes, sir.
So do you think in our education system we should encourage more of developmental studies?
So there is a need for more interdisciplinary studies, and right now they're only focused in certain research institutes at the front, but largely there is less uptake of these studies, so I think there should be more investment.
So your education policy must take into account more interdisciplinary studies, whether it is engineering, whether it is developmental studies, whether it is social sciences. In all areas you think we should have more interdisciplinary approach?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Dipti.
So Dipti,
Yes,
you are from Khurda.
Yes, sir.
There is a very famous rebellion over there. Can you recall what?
So
rebellion
the
was?
Paika rebellion of
Paika
1870.
rebellion. And why is it so famous?
So some people regard it as the first war of independence. However, it was pretty localized in the area. It brought to bear the various antagonisms that are developed in the region, and it was led by Bakshi Jagabandhu, who was a martial ruler of the region, of the king of Khordha, in fact. So they brought together the peasants of the region, the various tribal rulers as well, and they fought the British in 1817.
And who are Paikas exactly?
The Paikas are the militia of the king of Khordha, the erstwhile militia.
All right. Okay. And your hobbies are Hindustani classical vocal.
Yes, sir.
So you sing,
Yes, sir.
and you have learned this
Yes,
somewhere?
sir. So for 4 years.
Okay. And if you are talking about Hindustani classical vocal, how is it different from Carnatic music or Carnatic vocals?
So Carnatic vocal is largely organized, and there is very little scope for improvisation while it is being rendered. While Hindustani classical allows the artist to improvise while he is singing. And then there are differences in the accompaniments. So Hindustani makes use of tanpura and tabla primarily, while Carnatic makes use of the matka, violin, and other instruments as well.
Okay. So Rag Malkos is there.
Yes, sir.
When this raga is sung, performed?
So it's a nocturnal raga, nightly raga.
Night raga.
Yes.
And which ragas are for morning and in the afternoon?
So afternoon is one is Bhimpalash. Then morning raga is Bhairab.
Bhairav.
Yes.
Okay. So you are watching films also. Which recent films you have watched?
So the last I had watched in the theater was Napoleon.
Napoleon. And who was the protagonist in that movie?
Napoleon himself.
No, Napoleon was the name of actor.
The actor Joaquin Phoenix. I don't know how to
Have
pronounce
you
it.
watched earlier movies of Joaquin Phoenix?
Joker, sir.
Joker. Okay. So what, as far as the Waterloo battle was concerned,
Yes, sir.
how important it was in history, and as far as the Napoleon role is concerned, after that there was a decline in Napoleon. I think there was a decline in Napoleon
Yes, sir.
popularity. So how Waterloo war according to you? I mean, what was the importance of Waterloo wars?
So the earlier period of Napoleon, which was full of vibrancy in the regime, had washed away by the end because he was being viewed as a tyrant and a despot. And by that time, the continental system blockade had also failed. So the Battle of Waterloo kind of marked the death of Napoleon and his ambitions to unify Europe under his reign. And after he was banished to the island, then there was no coming back, really.
So comparing to Napoleon, which Indian king do you see, as a Napoleon of India?
King Ashoka, maybe.
Ashoka, but he was never, there was no decline in his popularity,
Right, sir.
as Napoleon has seen after Battle of Waterloo. In fact, after the War of Kalinga, Ashoka saw the rise in popularity.
He was ascendant.
Not in terms of a heroic sense, but in case of religion, overpowering, and all these things. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, as an economist, how do you see that Indian debts are, going to increase, or any country's debts are increasing? So, as an economist, how do you see the impact of this debt increasing on a particular country?
So insofar as we're growing pretty fast and the growth and interest rate differential is positive, then I think the debt will be sustainable. It also depends upon how you contract the debt, whether it is through external borrowings or through domestic borrowings primarily, and whether you use those borrowings to create sustainable assets that will be self-liquidating in the future. Then the debt will be largely sustainable going forward. But if the debt were to be incurred to carry out revenue expenditures fundamentally, then there will be a problem down the line. And our total public debt is to the tune of 80 to 84%, which is reasonable for a country of our size, sir.
All right. My last question. What is the aim of Iran helping Hamas and Houthis?
So Iran, since the Islamic revolution, has had regional ambitions to be a major stakeholder in the region, and it sees Israel as its fundamental enemy in the region. And the Palestinian cause, which had been relegated to the back burner for quite some time, and in which the Arab leaders had also acquiesced in the fact that they wanted to bring about some rapprochement with Israel. This was not amenable to Iran. So Iran sees in this an opportunity to checkmate Israel and the US.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Dipti.
Yes.
So tell me, recently RBI announced its monetary policy. Maybe you heard about that.
It's supposed to announce it on Thursday, I think.
6-member committee which
Yes, ma'am.
repo rate about regarding 6.5%. So why US Federal Reserve, after this announcement came out after US Federal Reserve announced its monetary policy. So why US Federal monetary policy matters for us?
Ma'am, this is largely because the US is the reserve currency of the world, and hot money tends to flow into countries that are safer for their investment. And if the interest rate, the Fed interest rate is higher relatively than the Indian real interest rate, then hot money will flow from India to the US. And this will destabilize our financial system, and it will lead to large-scale depreciation of the currency. So the RBI fundamentally implicitly takes account of the Fed's policy as well.
Okay. If repo rate constant,
Yes,
so what it means?
The repo rate being constant has to be read alongside the policy stance as well, because the RBI doesn't merely give the repo rate constant, or also offers guidance as to what the policy is going to go forward. So currently the monetary policy stance is withdrawal of accommodation. So even if the repo rate is kept constant, the market players would believe that the RBI would going forward reduce the interest rate.
So it denotes economic growth, or it's
It suggests that the RBI is apprehensive of inflationary figures. It is waiting for inflation to settle around the 4% mark before it can open up the liquidity spigot, so to say.
okay. Okay, so you are from Odisha.
Yes.
Why Kalinga is important in ancient history?
And Kalinga largely corresponds to modern day Odisha, and this was a region where many kings and rulers from Ashoka to Kharavela have reigned.
So because of kings or because of its trade route also?
Yes, ma'am. It's also acted as an entrepot for East Asia and Southeast Asia, and there were fundamental trading relations between people of Odisha and
Tosli
South.
was in Odisha?
Yes, ma'am.
What is that, Tosli?
Toshali was a port in the Odisha coast.
Or the head center of South India. Suvarnagiri, that is the head center of Tosli.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Especially in Odisha, a very famous ruler, maybe you heard about him, Kalinga Naresh Kharvel.
Yes, ma'am.
What is his contribution in ancient history?
Ma'am, Kharavela's rule came after the demise of Ashoka and the end of the Mauryan Empire. And Kharavela unified the area, and he provided relief to people. He consolidated the region around modern-day Bhubaneswar.
Or Kharvel inscription is more important as a sources of history also.
Yes, ma'am. The inscriptions are found in the caves of Udaygiri and Khandagiri, and they speak to Kharavela's benevolent empire and also his contribution to the growth of Jainism in the region.
Okay, okay. My last question to you, especially Jagannath Puri is very famous.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so which very famous festival celebrated in Jagannath Puri?
Ma'am, Rath Yatra.
Rath Yatra.
Yes, ma'am.
On which time?
In July.
In July.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Rath Yatra is very famous in, and one more thing, especially during G20, we can see that the Sun Temple concept,
Yes, ma'am.
replica of Sun Temple. What is the concept of Sun Temple?
I didn't get the question.
Sun Temple is very famous in
Yes, ma'am.
Konark.
Yes,
Okay, so what is the exact concept of Sun Temple?
I mean, the architectural significance.
Yes, in the
ma'am.
context of architecture.
The Sun Temple is designed in a way to resemble a chariot with 24 wheels, and it has 2 horses at the front. And
No. My question is the basic concept behind the Sun Temple, which is very famous in Odisha also. That's why I'm asking to you.
ma'am, it was designed for the worship of the sun god.
ये तो मुझे no, this is
That it was built for a specific purpose to carry out some calculations related to this celestial bodies, and time calculations were there, and a lot of things were there.
and the direct sun rays, especially on Garbhagrihi.
Right.
Okay, just read about it.
Netflix edition.
Yeah.
You will know more about it.
Yes.
Sir,
So you are from Odisha.
Yes.
Odisha coastal plains. There is special name for them.
I don't know.
Hexadeltoid.
Sorry, sir.
That is a plains of 6 rivers.
Right, sir.
So deltoid region.
Right.
Okay. The plains, they are famous. There are 6 rivers. They almost join continuously.
Yes.
So what is the plains over there, coastal plains? They have the separate name.
Okay.
Okay. The temples of Odisha, if we see, they have still the enrichment of old traditions.
Yes,
There is no new change. Even if today any temple is being built over there, they have the same resemblance. Any reason for that? They don't want to change? Some domes are there sometimes different other structures are different type of structure are there in other parts of India. But there, I have also visited, a similar type of stupas are there everywhere.
So majority of the temples, at least around Bhubaneswar, they're pretty old temples. I mean, new temples tend to come up in by-lanes or so, but the major temples are old. So I don't know if they're not altered, obviously.
They are not altered. Okay. Okay. You are from economics. You are already serving or you are selected somewhere?
No, sir.
No, you have not opted some of the services?
So the Group B services, I have not opted for them.
A reason? You are not working anywhere. If you get these services, they are important services.
So I will rather prefer the state services over Group B services.
Otherwise, especially Danics is very important. Danics, they become IAS, IPS after some time.
So I can.
Good it is. Okay. Honorable Prime Minister visited Lakshadweep.
Yes.
What are its direct and indirect impacts on Maldives? Direct and indirect.
Yes, sir. So the direct impact was immediately visible in so much as it created a certain backlash in the Maldives and a necessary rejoinder from India as well. But this was largely driven by popular furor over the fact that somebody insulted our Prime Minister. And this, in the long run, might also affect the way foreign policy is diplomatically carried out. So it behoves the government to hold its rein and ensure that Maldives doesn't entirely exit India's orbit and enter China's. In the long run, it also behoves us to improve the tourism potential of Lakshadweep, not as necessarily an alternative to Maldives, but to grow our own regions.
Don't you think that strong wave against India that has gone now reduced to a little mild wave against India?
So because that response belonged to a particular political party, people from that party, because largely Maldivians are appreciative of India's help and they cherish the relationship they have with India.
Okay. At the moment, if we see 80 crore people are being given free food by the scheme, that is whatever it is, don't you think that now we should have targeted the BPL group, or the poorer group, instead of such a large population? Out of 140 million, say 80 millions are getting?
Yes. So after the pandemic, there was quite a difficult moment for a large number of families. Households that had remained above the poverty line, just above the poverty line, they also fell below the poverty line. So there was a need to accommodate more households than ordinarily would have been done. And this has been continued for 2 or 3 more years now, largely because the government feels that wages have not possibly risen at the lower level as they have at the higher level. So even as we promote economic growth and try to promote productivity at the higher end, we need to protect people who are at the fag end of the curve.
You think it's a political agenda to cover up to 27?
So it's politics cannot be really dissociated from the policies that a government frames. So if it is interwoven into the larger structure of inclusive growth, so I think there is a problem as long as it is done in a fiscally prudent way.
Okay, Dipti, we are thankful that the interview is over. You have any questions or we give you the feedback?
So the feedback will be.
Okay, Dipti, please do some work on Odisha.
Yes.
Because in ancient, in architecture, religious perspective, very important state you belongs.
Yes,
So first of all, it's my suggestion. Then please you have to know because Sun Temple is very famous. Otherwise, other temple architecture or ancient history like inscription Kalinga, Tosli, Suvarnagiri. What is the importance in that context? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Otherwise, you're quite good. Okay.
Okay, sometimes I have realized that your pace is quite fast
Yes, sir.
while you are speaking. Okay,
That-
so try.
That is true for everyone from Odisha down south.
Yes, sir. I try to rein it.
Okay, so sometimes you'll have to concentrate more while what you are saying. Okay, so
Yes,
if it is possible, then try to have a moderate space.
Yes, so I do it at home, but in front
Do a
of a
little
panel.
lip modulation of opening the lips and speaking a little clear.
And there is a
Because your
monotonous
lips goes like this, totally like this. So
there is a monotonous space also because
Okay,
there was no modulation. So sometimes you'll have to emphasize something or sometimes
Yes.
So,
so watch the video when you get it.
Yes, good, but that weakness which I felt Odisha brings,
Yes, sir.
that is required important current events and practical part of the subject, which your subject is.
Yes, sir.
So have you ever faced the interview board?
So I took the Indian Economic Service interview last year.
Have you qualified?
No, sir, I didn't.
Okay. So you faced the Indian Economic Service Board.
Yes, sir.
And how much did you score in the interview?
130,
Out of?
200.
You think good or bad?
No, sir, it was
So what made you pull
Average.
down? Is it the same issues that Odisha knowledge was
no. They didn't ask me anything on that. It was
Okay.
largely an academic.
Economics.
Yeah.
economics driven?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, obviously Indian Economic Service will ask you questions on economics. So is your now economics improved?
And then I have to prepare a lot of things, revise a bit more.
So you have a month's time. So you still can work on whatever is your deficiency in terms of knowledge, content, and of course whatever they said in terms of lip modulation or voice modulation and tone, speed, etc.
Yes.
You can watch your videos, see it yourself, practice in front of a mirror.
Yes, sir.
In practice, you still have got a month's time.
Yes,
All
sir.
the best from our side.
Thank you, sir.
All the best.
Thank you, ma'am.